Hello and welcome to the Everyone Has a Story podcast. Now, I know we've all been there. Have you ever walked into that one building, that one place of business, and you know that something's just not right? It's missing something. Now, I remember back, my very first consulting client was back on the East Coast of the US, and he loved to talk about his competition. So as a consultant, I went in to check out his top competitor, this club that he thought was the cat's meow. And I walked in and it just didn't feel right. And I'm thinking, I wonder why my client thinks that this is the best place to be ever for a health club. So I'm walking in, I get to the guy to the front desk. He's a large, very muscular man. He's got a shaved head, and his shaved head had more muscles bulging than my whole body does. And he never made eye contact with me. And with this very deep, gruff voice, he says, "Yeah, what do you want?" And I'm thinking, wow, this is not the place I was expecting. So I said, I'm here new in town. I'd like to check out the facility. And without making eye contact and without giving me any hesitation, he yells at the top of his lung, "Billy." So right now, my heart's pounding because I didn't know why he yelled. And I mean, he yelled loud. It was deep. And about that time, here comes a guy out of the back office in a wheelchair. And he looks up at the guy behind the desk. He goes, "Yeah, what do you want?" And with still not making eye contact, but the guy in the wheelchair and me, the guy behind the desk says he wants a tour. So Billy, I'm assuming that's Billy in the wheelchair. He looks at me, rolls his eyes, and says, "Follow me." And I'm thinking to myself, really? This is the place that's the top ranked health club in this area. So anyway, he's walking me through the tour of the facility, and he's pointing at this, pointing at that. I mean, he's never said hello. He never gets my name. He's just going right at it. And he gets to a piece of equipment called the Smith machine. Well, by this time, I want to say something, So the guy, Billy, says, "This is the Smith machine." And as he starts to point to another piece of equipment, I interrupt and I go, "How long does it take to get a Roger machine?" Thinking that was probably the best line I had ever thought of in my whole life. The guy does not even acknowledge my best one-liner ever. He goes, "Over here's this, over there." He didn't even acknowledge it. So we get to the very end. He says, "Okay, he's all yours." And he rolls back into the office. And the guy behind the front desk, still whatever he's doing, he's not looking at me, says, "Do you have any other questions?" I said, "No, I think I'm good." And I walk out. And so I got to know this club a little bit better over my time with my client. And it was never like that every day. So I want to give him some credit. But the fact is, it was never much better. And so myself, I always wondered, what is this club missing? A lot of clubs, health clubs at that time, were very energetic. They were very, full of life. And this just lost and was lacking something. I call it passion. And so today, that's what we're going to talk about with my guest speaker. We're going to talk about what it means to have passion for your business, in your business, that you can deliver to both the employees and to the customers. So with me today is Kira Day. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Roger. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you here because nothing better than to talk about passion when it comes to business. So Kira is the founder of the Passion Center. I mean, you got to just love the name by itself, the Passion Center. And so, Kira, tell us a little bit about you and about the Passion Center.
That feels like a loaded question. There's a lot to know, but I will summarize it. So for me, my background is in corporate. I was in the business world for about 2 decades. And in that time span, I was climbing the corporate ladder, doing a ton of other stuff. And I really had thought that this was the thing. This was the closest to passion I would say I'd ever felt. And on that journey up the climb, what I realized was that there was a couple of signals that started to happen. My body wasn't jiving with a lot of whether it was politics, leadership, cultures. There was a lot of, I would call it disconnect, although that wasn't the language I would use at the time. And I guess along that journey, something happened where my body just decided that if I was going to be stubborn and keep climbing, it was going to stop. So it broke twice. The first time I just thought it was annoying, but the second time it really scared me, and it forced me to do one of those very needed inward journeys on what was happening, what was wrong with me, with my situation, with the whole gamut. Anyways, that started the whole journey of the Passion Center before the Passion Center even had a name. Because what I began to realize on my journey was that I wasn't following my passion. I wasn't living passionately. What I was following was my ambition, was a necessity to make it in this world. And a lot of that happened from my younger roots and my younger engineering. I was a first generation immigrant, grew up in a house where my parents had lost their house. So a lot of the conversations that happened in the family unit was around the financial, being able to survive. So my mentality walking into business was one of survival. That was ultimately what broke me down, because the harder I worked and the harder I was going at this chain trying to achieve, the more damage I was doing internally. So that actually changed my mindset completely when I got sick, because I had to do the inner work. I had to take a look at all of the things that was stopping me and blocking me. And that was making me feel like I needed whatever it was I was going after. Even though I wasn't feeling alive doing it, it felt like 99% misery for that one thing, that I'd be like, oh yeah, this is worth it. This is worth it. This is why I'm here. So in that whole breath, all of that added up to me thinking throughout that journey that there had to be a better way. There's got to be a better way of doing things. So when I started the Passion Center, that was my focus. My focus was around, what is that better way? How can we create environments where people can thrive? Because I'm not a unique story. There's so many stories of people that have burnt out in corporate. I mean, it's not a new phenomenon. And really what I learned was that people do performance wrong. They try to infuse a culture of work before people, when really it's the people that drive the culture. So that just took me down a train of really wanting to understand what passion was, which led me down a whole new avenue, which is basically the inception and the birthing of what the Passion Center is today.
Well, it has great intention, especially this time of year. The corporate unhappiness was happening before COVID, but it just got, exaggerated even more with COVID. And there's a lot of people out there that are part of that great resignation that are just looking for something different. And, as a business owner myself, it's hard from time to time to keep the entire team happy and wanting to be there every day. And so that's always a challenge. But as long as you take it as a challenge, the employees will know that you're trying to do better and to get them involved. And so many businesses, especially today after COVID, they're feeling out of sorts. The old normal is not the new normal, and they are finding so much that that things have to change internally, or they're going to either be suffering for a long period of time, or they're just going to have a quick death. So I'm glad you're here, because this is an important, very important topic, especially to me in the business community. So we're all on the same page. Let's really define, what is your definition of passion? So we're all referring to the same passion.
That's actually a very, very good question, because it's the thing that I think what we've done as a culture is we've overused the word, right? So it's dulled its meaning over time. When I first started to look at passion, I was looking at it from an access point of how humans thrive, of what are the operating conditions that help us to feel alive, to have that spark, to have that sense of energy that can carry forward our work. And from our initial research, what I started to play around with was being able to get a formula for passion, so that it could take it from like 20,000 feet in the air, bring it down to earth, so that we can all just have a conversation about it. So the formula that we came up with was passion equals meaning times investment, right? So passion is the output. And what carries that passion for people is the meaning that they put behind it. So the meaning is the input, and the investment in that meaning over time is what actually sparks the neurochemicals that light us up, that help us to experience that sense of passion. But in so doing, I also want to break it down in another way as well. So passion is meaning times investment, but there's also different types of passion that we can have. And I think we cluster it all into this one word and we put a lot of weight there. So it's really, really important that we can get the distinctions. So there's four as I know it. There's romantic passion, which we don't talk about. that's a whole other category on its own. But there's subject matter passion, there's environmental passion, and there's social passion. So work and our relationship with work carries actually all of them. It carries the relationship with the environment, so environmental passion. So industry would be an example of that. There is subject matter passion, so the role and the tasks that we do at work. And there's social passion. How is the community infusing a sense of belonging so that we can actually express ourselves enough to thrive? And that would be the categorical areas that the Passion Center focuses on when we look at what is passion and its relationship to work specifically.
So I love that phrase, and I know I've told you this 100 times. I love that phrase, what lights us up. You know, I know so many times business owners are always struggling to figure out, what's going on in their business. And I never had that phrase until I met you, that, I let them know that they need to find out really what lights up their employees, what's going to be that spark to have them come in every day and want to perform at their best level possible, right? And so talking about that, what lights you up principle, passion, how can that affect today's business in your eyes?
Well, for starters, we view passion as being the world's most hidden economic and social asset. What we don't realize about passion is that when people experience it, it's actually a very personal experience, right? It helps us to feel like we are personally expressed, that we're doing something we care about. And when you consider these words, doing something I care about, that helps me to feel expressed, well, think about what comes after, right? If I care about something and if I'm feeling expressed in the thing that I care about, then I'm going to most likely, it makes logical sense, right? I'm going to most likely be more committed to what I'm doing. I'm going to most likely be more respectful around the dynamics around what I'm doing. I'm more than likely going to probably do a better job because my attention and my focus is in the present moment. I'm engaged. And so inside of the behaviors that you want to employ, and this is something about passion as well, right? So when we talk about passion equals meaning times investment, we look at meaning as the driver. So we need to understand and get under what is the meaning, right? What is personally meaningful to people, what drives their passion, and what drives their passion culturally and inherently. But when we break all of those to pieces, we're doing it for a reason. We're doing it because we're trying to get underneath what drives behavior. So if the behavior you want is more production, if the behavior you want is more collaboration, if the behavior you want is more energy infused to the work at hand, well, then you have to get under what drives the behavior. And 9 times out of 10, one of them is passion that drives the behavior. Now, there's other drivers that can get you similar behavior, but as Angela Duckworth noted in her book, right, The Power of Passion and Perseverance, you can't just have employees persevere because that leads them down the path to burnout, which was what I was doing to myself. You have to actually look at the combinations of drivers that people have in the most optimal form to get you to the optimal result. And I guess that would be the linear path from, perception to driver to behavior to results to bottom line, if you want to slow down the track that way.
Absolutely. I mean, as business owners, we all want to have that scoreboard that we can look at and compare to, right? So as I gave in my opening story the example of this one particular business that was falling way, way short of of passion,
Mm.
especially with these two gentlemen. So tell me, in your words, where are these businesses falling short today with really Center Fund recognizing and acknowledging that there's a lack of passion from probably the top on down, and from managers on down to the frontline employees, which really resonates now to the customer, right? I mean, it really it's gonna roll downhill to the very, very end. And so where are they falling short right now?
Mm. Well, I think that where businesses are falling short is actually more of a systemic thing than it is people trying to fall short in this area. But when we think about passion as a conversation, this is a pretty recent conversation to be having. I mean, businesses are used to purpose, they're used to very transactional things. So, and there's a ton of studies that need to be done before a business looks at the thing that it's going to endorse or it's going to bring into the business, right? So purpose is known to, drive engagement up to 225%. So businesses are like, yes, that's where we're going to look. But passion has traditionally been seen as something very self-centric. It's been traditionally seen as like, your interests. It's been categorized as things that you do outside of work. You come to work, and outside of work is where you get to play. The infusion of both, businesses historically don't really understand, and they don't understand it because when you think about how we've been trained through the system, it's a very linear model, and linear models are very transactional by nature, and it's also a scalable model. It makes it, and we have equated that kind of linearity to production. So, for example, if I get X amount of your time, then I get X amount of your production, which equals, the money that I end up paying you for that time and for that production. It's it's transactional, skill set to job. That's where our focuses have been. But what we've missed along the way is that when you only focus on skill set to production, then you're actually not capitalizing or optimizing on your production, because somebody could be good at something, very good at something. They can do that thing in their sleep. But like your previous example, if they're not really there, then you're only ever getting up to a certain percentage of them inside of what they're doing, which means you're going to start to leak in the production that is happening. And again, to make these conversations simple, you do kind of have to generalize. There are exceptions to this rule. I'm not saying that people who aren't passionate about what they do can't also be good workers. They can. But what I'm saying, it's more of a cultural essence of the flavor of an organization and the flavor of a team. If somebody isn't passionate about something, or they're looking at the clock waiting for 5 o'clock to hit so that they can get out, then chances are they're not looking at your business in the same way as someone who really cared about it would look at your business. And I mean, I don't have to do studies, because to me, this is very logical. You as a business owner, and any business owner or any leader in a business, you know yourself, if you don't care about the work that you're doing, if you're not passionate about your own business, then you got to get out of your business, right? And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with the understanding of where we can infuse more of that energy into the people that are working for us too, because at the end of the day, they are the people that are responsible for the production, for taking care of our clients, for taking care of the people inside of the organization. So if you're missing that essence, if you're missing that energy, if you're missing that connection to the work that you're doing, then you're fundamentally missing something very important to make the operation run smoothly, efficiently, and at the end of the day, in the best way.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say, that as an owner, as a team leader, we need to find a way to get our employees into the present.
Mm,
Now, I know like when I go on vacation, I'm
mhm,
110% in the present.
mhm,
When I'm watching Denver Bronco football in the fall, I am 110% in the present. I mean, there's nobody more passionate on that Sunday or Monday night than Roger when it comes to Bronco football. When I'm out wading in the water, fly fishing, I
mhm,
am 110% present. And
mhm,
so, can those three scenarios,
mhm.
are we able to replicate that level of being in the present in the workplace?
Of course, we can. We just need a different mindset around it. So, the way that we apply passion at the Passion Center is it's not so much about the thing, right? It's about what drives the thing. And you're going to hear me say that a lot. It's about what drives behavior, it's about what drives us being engaged, it's about what drives passion. And Roger, if I sat you down and I said, listen, like, let's actually unpack why you're passionate about football. Let's unpack why you're passionate about fly fishing. Let's unpack why you're passionate about all of the things that vacation that brings you into the present moment. We I will be able to help you understand and see patterns between all of them that may not actually be obvious to you. And when we understand what those patterns are, then that's the power, because then we can take a look at your work and say, okay, so what features and parts and aspects of your work or your day to day is connecting you to the things that you would be driven by, to the things that would actually infuse that. How can we MacGyver the situation to really help engineer a platform for you to feel those experiences? And it may take a little tinkering, it may take a little experimenting, but we will get there. The part that most organizations miss is that they don't actually know what drive their people. They guess and they assume that if they do these, checkbox things, that people will automatically get lit up. Oh, you know what? I gave my employees a free lunch on Friday, and they are going to be so excited next week when they come to work because they've just bonded together. But that's not really how it works. I mean, those are nice. Don't get me wrong. If you're doing that in your organization, keep doing it because that's helpful. But it's not actually getting inside of the real conversation you need to be having, which is what drives your people. So, for example, and I can share one from my own personal experience. I was in sales for many years. I did very well in sales for many years, but I wasn't driven by money. And sales is an organization that's very, very like money focused. So, and I've heard many of my past managers say, if you're not motivated by money, you shouldn't be here. And I was like, well, is that true? Like, let's challenge that for a second, because I'm very good at my job. I get a lot out of my job. The money supported my life in a lot of great ways. I'm not saying I didn't like making money, but it wasn't my primary driver. My driver was all around getting complex solutions and getting solutions to complex problems and helping to create win-win scenarios for my clients. And as a strategy, I was always the winner every single time. And I could spin circles around people that was just motivated by that transactional sale and was going after the money. But that's something that inherently, sales cultures don't value necessarily. So they were never speaking my language. So if my manager was like, hey, your sales are really low this month, I'm going to give you an extra 10K or whatever that value was, it's the wrong driver. You're not going to motivate me in that way, right? Find me, or look at my accounts and let's see like what problems exist that I can tackle my hands into and get dirty with. And yes, like you have me in the present moment doing the thing. So I think that's the thing. And we spoke a little bit about this last time, Roger, as well, right? Like you've got to find the stuff in your people that leaves them with one of those feel good hangovers, right? Like they feel so good doing it that they want to come back to it. And if that's not there for them, then I mean, they're going to be looking elsewhere while they're still doing good work for your company, but they're going to have wandering eyes because we all intrinsically need fundamental stuff to be met in order for us to feel like whole, complete, valuable, contributing people. That was very long. I'm very sorry.
That's all right. No, I love it. So while you were talking, I just opened up my MacGyver toolbox and I got my Swiss Army knife, I got my paper clip, and I got my tube of toothpaste. So
Right.
now you put your name tag on that says you're part of the Passion Center. Take me through the tools and solutions that you have to help me, the business owner, at least start building the foundation of passion and finding the passion of my employees
Mm.
at this point.
Great question, Roger. Thank you. Well, I think the first step is to understand the passion health of your organization as a collective. So my team and I did a study over 4 years that involved 2,300 people, and it's growing, where we were able to get our the mechanics of what drives passion. We were able to explicitly account for things that drive it. And what we learned was that there are 15 things. And inside of those 15 things, it's broken down into 4 subgroups. And those 4 subgroups are your obviously the drivers of your people, what drives them intrinsically, but 3 out of the 4 things actually have to do with your environment, right? So it's the external conditions that they're in, it's the social conditions that they're in, and it's the psychological conditions that those social conditions and those external conditions create that help somebody to feel that experience, that subjective experience of passion. So we want to first take a measurement. We want to first take a score, do an assessment, and find out what are the things that are going really, really well that are helping and supporting your people to have a passion thriving culture. And what are the things that you're missing? What are the things that are just not there because maybe you don't know to look, or maybe they don't know to look even, right? These are not obvious, intuitive features of our design. We're not just supposed to be aware of them. If you don't know where you're looking, you're not going to look. So this will help you to understand that. And then from there, if the problem is that there's not enough intrinsic needs that are being met, there are tools that helps us to understand and score and identify what your people are being driven by internally, which will be helpful for them and helpful for you, because now you can have a very good conversation. You can't have a conversation if you don't have the language. So this really helps you to develop the language that's required to have those conversations to make whatever needs to be made better. And then the last features of it is looking at the environmental and the social scopes of your organization. We talk about this a lot, but is there psychological safety? Are people able to feel like they can express themselves without feeling humiliated or dismissed? Because that's a sure way to not make people feel very happy or good, right? And then, and the other stuff I think society talks about a lot, but we really have a scorecard to be able to identify those things first. And then from there, it's about building a game plan. Because again, you can build game plans when you know the components of the game. If you don't know the components of the game, you can't plan. So then you'll never get the results that you're looking for. And I think that would be the number one thing that we would go in with. Everything else would be very nuanced to the company, to the environment, to what their challenges are and what their opportunities are.
Okay, so number one, I want the audience to remember one thing here. She just talked about how her team took 4 years to do the research to make sure that everything she's talking about is validated. How many business owners do you know that take the time before they really launch a business to do that much of a deep dive of due diligence for their customer? So number one, you got to admire the Passion Center just for that. But now also, you got to think about, she just talked about this passion health test. And really, that's really the start. I mean, just like when you're not feeling good, what are you going to do? You're going to set an appointment to go to the doctor to find out, why am I not feeling good, right? And so really, it's the same thing, right? Someone's going to take this test that is lacking or feeling like they're lacking somewhere in this passion, type reference to where's my meter at right now, my personal meter, my business meter on passion. And this test is going to help them reach that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what are they going to hear from you on the results of that test. So now you've gone from MacGyver to Dr. Day.
Well, the funny thing is that it's all about, everything's about alignment, right? So when you think about when your car is not aligned for a while, it's going to give you signs that it's not. So chances are, if you're going to be wanting to take this test, it's because you have that gut impulse that something is just not right. It's not functioning in the right order. You're not getting the results that you want consistently, or people are leaving, or there's complaining, but you can't actually see what the root of that complaining is coming from. Like, there's a lot of different symptoms that is presenting itself where you now need to take a deeper look at that. And then what this test is actually going to do, it's going to tell you the root of where those symptoms are actually coming from. And so you're going to have to make a decision once you see the results, though, right? You can decide to, MacGyver it, or maybe put Band-Aid solutions over it if you want, if that's the quickest way to do it. But truthfully, it's going to require a deeper reflection on what you want to do to cure at the root. Because what a lot of businesses do, and also, by the way, a lot of doctors, right, is sometimes it's the managing of the symptoms versus the curing at the root. I'm not a symptom person. That's not where my values lie. I'm a let's get to the root and get our hands dirty and really fix the infrastructure so that you can actually have a really thriving, healthy business long term, not just in the short term. And so, I feel like that is really where the value is for taking an assessment like this. It's about getting a prognosis, a diagnosis, and then coming up with a game plan collaboratively based on the nuances of your business to see how we can operationalize real structural shifts that can give you the best ROI possible inside of your business and really fix what's going on.
So, Kira, MacGyver, Dr. Day, thank you very much for being my guest here today. And everybody out there, I'm going to challenge you all to go out, reach out to Kira, and I want you to take that passion health test. I want to know where you stand, because I know from all my walks of life as an owner, as a employee, as a manager, I know that if I know where I am right now, I know where my meter needs to go. I have a better idea of what direction that meter needs to go, and at least it'll get me pointed in the right direction. So I'm going to make you guys all this challenge. I'm going to put you up to it. Take this test, find out where you stand right now on your own personal meter, determine to yourself where you want to be. And then I want you to reach out to Kira, and I want you to reach out to me, because I think that between Kira and myself, we are going to be able to help you move that needle of your meter in the direction that you want. So Kira, how can they reach out to you, and how can they get in contact with you, and how can they get a sample or actually get the test from you?
Thank you for asking that question. So I can leave you with some of my links, but the Passion Center's website is one way you can get access. Center is spelled with an R-E, not an E-R. The Passion Health Test is actually there for you to go into as well. Or you can reach out to me directly. I can be found on LinkedIn, or my email is kira.day@thepassioncenter.com. And I will be more than happy to speak with you in a little bit of more detail, or answer any questions that you may have.
Well, Kira, you just made the environment of my podcast so much brighter today. So thank you for that. Thank you for being my guest speaker, and I hope that we have plenty more.
We definitely will. Thank you so much for having me. This is something I'm really passionate about, clearly, so I could talk forever on this. So, you've helped me to live into my passion today and feel expressed. So thank you.
Good. Well, this has been nice. My podcast wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for my sponsors and my great supporters. So let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of them. First of all, I want to thank Rebecca at Custom Bookkeeping and Accounting, delivering trustworthy bookkeeping services since 2003. Dave and Dara at Virtues Matter, making this world a much happier place to be with their Virtues card apps, coaching, and workshops. Stephen at Buller Accounting, giving business owners depth and insight to their numbers. Eric and his team at Ivy Cat Web Design, the real superheroes of web development and design. Jennifer and Jean at the Seavers Real Estate Team, serving Pierce and Kitsap counties with their home buying and selling needs. Maury at the Maury Method, the world's only brainwave entrainment engineer, helping everyone have more clarity, less stress, and overall better brain health. Priya at Pivot My Profit, helping individuals and businesses have better control of their finances and more money at the end of their day. Melissa at the Soul Vibe Energy High, the queen of the aha moments, helping individuals find those holes in their cups, repair the hole, and gain back their positive energy. And finally, Rick at West Sound Recording. You talk, they do all the rest. Thank you, Rick, for all your efforts with the production and editing of my podcast.